Kalispera. We are here with Christos Karaolis, President of the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK. Christo, I would like to welcome you to Cyprus at 60 and thank you for accepting our invitation to join these online celebrations of the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the Republic of Cyprus.
Thank you very much for having me, Maria.
I would like to say that the Cypriot community in the UK is a large part of what we do at the High Commission, and of course a large part of our audience in relation to our events and cultural activities here at the cultural section of the Cyprus High Commission. I would like you to tell us a little bit about the Federation itself, the history of the Federation, and most importantly, a little bit about the history of our community in the United Kingdom.
Okay, well, let me start with the second question and weave in the history of the Federation because it's very much intertwined. So the first kind of migration waves that started coming from Cyprus to the UK were in the 20s and 30s. And that's where kind of Cypriots could come over here and settle as kind of British colonial subjects, frankly. Numbers were small, but that did start the way for the kind of later migration waves that we saw. Obviously then during the World Wars, we saw the Cyprus Regiment where 30,000 Cypriots fought as part of that, but also actually you had parts of that first migration wave fighting in British regiments. So for example, my grandfather fought in the Middlesex Regiment. So you did see Cypriots fighting alongside the kind of regular British Army as well. The first major migration wave was in the 50s and 60s. And that was the generation that came over here and started working in the textile industries, in catering, mainly around kind of West End and Camden. And that's when you started seeing the first remnants of the organised community coming through. So you saw churches being established, you saw community associations being established, and the community started getting more organised. And then as the community became more affluent, it started kind of migrating a bit further north towards Haringey, which was the first major borough that saw the community presence. Obviously that all changed in 1974 with the invasion, where we saw a much bigger wave of migration coming to the UK from refugees who'd lost everything in the kind of Homena. Haringey alone took in 11,000 refugees from Cyprus. And so that's when you started seeing big chunks of the community coming over. And in 1974 was actually, well, was when the Federation was formed. It was officially inaugurated in 75, but it was formed immediately after the invasion in order to firstly campaign on the Cyprus issue, but secondly, and equally importantly, represent and advocate for the interests of the growing Cypriot diaspora that was coming over here to the UK. So the Federation itself is an umbrella body for 85 or so member organisations, ranging from kind of cultural to political to sporting to community, the whole works. But actually our job here at the Federation is, as I said, to advocate for a free, united Cyprus, but also to represent the interests of our diaspora here in the UK. The last and most recent major migration wave was obviously after Cyprus joined the European Union in 2004. And we've started seeing a new kind of younger generation who have come over, have studied, and have stayed, and are themselves increasingly becoming part of the organised community. So, you know, a couple of different migration waves, but the diaspora is very much established here in the UK.
That's amazing. Very important information and details. And thank you very much for this. And so let's focus a little bit on the cultural activity of the community. Which do you think are the main cultural, let's say the cultural pillars of the community, the centers around which the community organizes culturally?
So I'll leave the great work that you do and that the Federation does aside and talk about some others. A couple of different points. One I would say is obviously we have our community centres. So there's the Cypriot Community Centre in Haringey. There's the Greek Cypriot Brotherhood in Barnet. but also outside of London, we've got the Estia in Birmingham, we've got centres in Cardiff and in Manchester. So I think first and foremost are our community centres, which are a hub and focal point for the community. The second major pillar is obviously the church. There are kind of 110 parishes in the Greek Orthodox Church, and those remain a pillar for the community and a focal point. The third major pillar, I think, is obviously our Greek language community schools. So there are a number of educational providers that all come together under Efebe, which is chaired by His Eminence the Archbishop Nikitas. Another pillar is obviously our youth clubs. These were much more prevalent actually during the first waves of migration, have become less prevalent now, but they still have a role to play. And then kind of two more pillars I'd add. One is obviously our community media. So Eleftheria, Parikiaki, and obviously Hellenic TV and London Greek Radio all provide a key part in terms of promoting our culture and traditions amongst the community. And then finally, how can I not say some of the restaurants and Puzukia venues and all of those things that obviously act as a pillar for the community.
Yes, of course, definitely. What can we say about the cultural activity of the community? I mean, we have mentioned the pillars, the centers around which this activity organizes. However, can we distinguish some specific cultural events throughout the year that bring the community together and help maintain, preserve our traditions, our culture in the UK?
Well, absolutely. I think that the first event that I would highlight is obviously the Cypriot Wine Festival, which Parikiaki organises every June, and that brings together tens of thousands of people from the community, and has been happening for decades now. This is kind of one of the key focal points for the community in celebrating our traditions, our cultures, and across generations. Actually, you see a very, very good turnout. I would say outside of London, there is a similar festival, but on a slightly smaller scale, the Mayday Celebration that happens at the Birmingham Estia. And again, that is a celebration of our culture for all the community across the Midlands to come together and celebrate our cultures and traditions. I think that the church also acts as a focal point for the community, be it kind of obviously some of the religious traditions like weddings, baptisms, and more tragically funerals, but also celebrating national days and being a focal point, particularly for the older generation in the community. The same I'd say for our community Greek schools. These act as a major anchor in terms of those celebrations. I think every kind of autumn and spring, our community member associations hold their dinner and dances, and there's a lot to go to, and actually they provide a great opportunity for people who share a similar background, be it from the same village, be it sharing the same political belief, be it coming together from the same profession, whatever it may be, but it's an opportunity for them to connect and come together. And the final call that I'd make is obviously sports remains a great way of kind of bringing the community together. And so GOBA, the Cypriot Football League, does a great job of kind of maintaining that tradition and maintaining that network amongst the younger generation through the annual football season.
It's actually a very active community, and yeah, we're so proud of this, and because we get this sense of home away from home. But the federation itself is very much into this as well. So please let us in this culture activity of the federation.
As you say, absolutely. We also very much play a leading role in that. And in addition to the work that our member associations do, the federation does a number of cultural activities in kind of on top of those. So the first and foremost being the Federation takes the lead role for the community in organising the National Day celebrations for 25th of March, 1st of April, bringing together community Greek schools, bringing together the church, bringing together obviously the High Commission of Cyprus and the Embassy of Greece to celebrate those national days. As a federation, we've also organised concerts, bringing kind of Dallaras over, bringing over choirs from Cyprus, but also celebrating some of the homegrown talent we have here in the UK. For example, Katerina Mina, Marios Papadopoulos, and a number of others. Thirdly, we organise photographic exhibitions and artistic exhibitions, both actually inside Parliament, but in the community centres as well, as a way of showcasing our cultures and traditions to wider British society. In fact, most recently in January, before lockdown, we held a photographic exhibition from the PIO about the modern history of Cyprus that the Interior Minister of Cyprus, Mr. Nikos Nouris, inaugurated for us.
Let's talk about the UK Cyprus, the community itself. I mean, through these events, through these activity, through these fairs and festivals, how do you think, how close do you think that the UK Cypriots feel to their origin and their culture identity? And what do you think we could do further in order to bring them closer, and especially the younger generations?
I do think our community in UK Cypriots feel close to their roots. And I think the work that we've already mentioned plays a key role in maintaining that link back to Cyprus and back to their roots. The one point I would make is I think the identity is and has shifted from the first to the second and third generation. So for the first generation, the sense of identity was all about the physical link back to Cyprus, the place of their birth. For actually the second and third generation, myself included, it's less about the physical link and more about the notional idea of I have roots in another country. It makes me a more diverse individual. And what people anchor to varies. For some people, it's the language. For some people, it's the dancing. For some people, it's the food. For some people, it's other aspects of culture. But that sense of identity is evolving. And I think we as an organised community need to recognise that and need to evolve the way that we organise, the way that we provide services, in fact, the services we provide more bluntly, to make sure that we do match the evolving needs of our community. And that's why our youth branch, Nebomak UK, plays such a key role in bringing the younger generation together, in engaging them, in connecting them with their roots. And so their work is crucially important as we think about kind of the evolution of the diaspora. And I think kind of as the community evolves, our member associations are going to evolve. So for example, very recently we had the Cyprus Medical Society in the UK form as a network of doctors in the UK. Actually, it came out of the COVID crisis, where we had a number of doctors volunteer to provide medical support and medical advice by phone and by email to the community, and they've now organised into a society. That's probably something that may not have happened but for COVID, but is a benefit and actually is now growing as a thriving network of Cypriot professional doctors. So we do need to think about how we evolve the way we organise and what we provide. I think the final point I'd make is Brexit has also awoken a sense of identity in the community, from the very tactical, UK Cypriot saying, I want a Cypriot passport, which I think you know at the High Commission because you're on the coalface of that and dealing with it. But I think also more philosophically, people are saying, well, as the UK leaves the European Union, what are my roots and how do I anchor back to some identity of being European? So I do think it has awoken that sense of identity within the community. And that's something that we absolutely collectively need to capture and build on.
This is amazing insight into the psyche of the community, and it's actually very helpful information to us as well, as you said, on how to respond to the needs of this evolving sense of identity and Cyprus as another home. Amazing, brilliant, thank you very much. My last question is about our many distinguished Cypriots and UK Cypriots in the arts and cultural scene of the UK. You have already mentioned some names and some networks. I would like to ask you, how do you engage with these personalities, and how do you think they inspire the new generations? Do they inspire the new generations?
So I absolutely think they do. It is a very short answer, but I think, as you said, there are some incredible success stories from our community that are kind of hitting the headlines here in the UK. And these role models across sectors do inspire the next generation. I think the fact that, you know, we have household UK Cypriot and Cypriot names across sectors, you know, be it Tonya Buxton, be it Theo Paphitis, be it Professor Boumazis on the COVID tests recently. You know, it shows that, particularly for the younger generation, that our community has no bounds, right? You have Tracy Emin succeeding, you have Dennis Hassabis on AI. You can pretty much go through any sector and find a high-profile, successful Cypriot. So I think, first and foremost, having those names out there and having them talking about their roots and their heritage is really important as a kind of role modeling for the next generation in terms of where to set the bar for their ambitions. I think secondly, as a federation, we absolutely do engage these people. So last year we hosted a roundtable at Bloomberg that had a number of these individuals attending. In addition, you know, Lord Adonis was there as the first UK Cypriot cabinet minister. So we do have these youngsters, and actually these individuals do want to give back to the community. So it's great that they are willing to engage, they are willing to give back. But I think first and foremost, just having their names out there as people who have succeeded as UK Cypriots is hugely important.
Yes, and it is amazing how themselves highlight their Cypriot background. And this makes us proud, and this makes us wanting to involve them and engage with them. I mean, here at the cultural section of the Cyprus High Commission, I started off trying to spot them, to identify them in the community and bring them in and organize things with them. And just like you said, you suddenly discovered that there are so many of them in so many different areas. And yes, we are very lucky. I think we are very creative people and very well educated, I should say. I mean, we pursue education, we pursue this culture nurturement. So yes, I think that pretty much sums up. I mean, you have outlined perfectly the activity of the community and very important historical information. Thank you so much, Christo, for being with us, for joining us in this festival.
Absolutely. Look, like I said, Mario, very well done for taking the initiative and actually, you know, celebrating this anniversary and making the most of what we can do given COVID. I think it's hugely important to remember that over the last 60 years, Cyprus has overcome so much as a country. In fact, much more than many other countries will have suffered in the first 60 years of independence. But actually, Cyprus now is a stable, solid, functioning and prosperous democracy in the Eastern Mediterranean, but also crucially is a real partner for the UK. And so as a diaspora, we have a key role in strengthening that partnership for the benefit of both Cyprus and the UK.
Brilliant. That's a very nice way to wrap up. Thank you very much, Christo, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam. Take care.